Kimi no Na wa, like several of Makoto Shinkai's movies before it, has a fixation on space and time. Each of the 4 Radwimp songs in Kimi no Na wa contains numerous references to cosmically large measures of space and time. The contrast in scale between the vastness of the cosmos, of the unverifiability of the infinite unknown, of the theoretical existence of incomprehensible systems beyond our understanding, the contrast between all that and our own tiny selves simultaneously conveys both a mortal helplessness we must feel within this paradigm and the courage it must take to defy against it. Makoto Shinkai's fascination with the cosmos goes as far back as 2002 with his first major short film, Voices of a Distant Star, which is a story about a boy and a girl who try to maintain a relationship while being separated by literal light years. And perhaps most famously, the dimensions of space and time are most visibly at the forefront of his 2008 film, 5 centimeters per second. It is possible that Makoto Shinkai might have taken inspiration from the traditions from various festivals in Japan concerned with spatial elements. The first is Tsukimi, which is the Japanese version of the more broadly East Asian Mid-Autumn Festival, just like how the festival celebrated by Itamori and Kimi no Na wa takes place during the autumn. Tsukimi dates back to the Heian era, much like other traditions mentioned in this essay, and is historically a moon viewing festival, although in Kimi no Na wa, the residents of Itamori are viewing a comet. But the second festival I want to mention that more pertinently has to do with Makoto Shinkai's predilection for celestial beings, and I believe has had a major influence on Kimi no Na wa, is the Tanabata Festival. The Tanabata Festival is a summer festival, sometimes called the Star Festival, and it celebrates the legend of Orihime and Hikaboshi, who are star-crossed lovers tragically separated by the entirety of the Milky Way galaxy. And much like how Taki and Mitsuha are only able to see each other during a tiny sliver of time during Twilight, Orihime and Hikaboshi can only meet once a year on the 7th day of the 7th month of the Japanese lunisolar calendar, which is when Tanabata is celebrated. Orihime and Hikaboshi are quite literally star-crossed lovers because they are represented by 2 stars, Vega and Altair, which are part of the famous summer triangle of stars, with the 3rd star Deneb representing the bridge over which the 2 lovers can meet once a year. This is why Tanabata is sometimes also referred to as Hoshi Matsuri, or the Star Festival. Much like the characters of Voices of a Distant Star and 5 centimeters per second, Orihime and Hikaboshi are separated by an agonizing, tantalizing distance, while the characters of Kimi no Na wa are separated by the dimension of time. But also, it's especially interesting to note how the name of the female lover in the Tanabata Festival legend, Orihime, can translate to weaving princess, because in the legend, Orihime was a woman who wove together many threads, just like the threads so prominently used in Kimi no Na wa, threads that can possibly just maybe connect across the vast expanse of the entire Milky Way. In fact, Hikaboshi, the other lover in this story, was known as a cowherd, and his cows are said to have wandered all across the Milky Way. And that's a whole lot of cows! And cows make milk! Anyways, going back to our conversation on dimensions, I believe that Makoto Shinkai has a fascination with distance and time because, as dimensional units, they are fundamental fixtures of the universe that we must inevitably learn to live with or work against. And because they are such basic measures of our reality, they're the easiest ways through which we can view our reality on the farthest, most widely encompassing scale. And I believe Makoto Shinkai wishes to tell his stories at this scale because, just like our ancestors when they looked up at the sprawling night sky full of stars thousands of years ago, the same night sky we see today, just like traditions of years past, Makoto Shinkai wants to tell a story of the largest canvas of possibility we can see, and in doing so draw forth the most enduring trace of human nature that can still exist, even if just faintly, at this most superlative plane of existence conceivable. Is there any facet of the totality of human experience that can withstand the vastness of the cosmos? Is there any quality of humanity that, no matter how infinitesimally small, can give significance to our place amongst the millions of galaxies that surround us? What meaning is there to human existence such that it can stand alongside space and time as irrefutable fixtures of the universe? Makoto Shinkai actually tackles these questions quite directly with his first major short film, Voices of a Distant Star, which I've mentioned is a story about a boy and a girl who try to maintain a relationship while being light years apart. The girl, named Mika, has been deployed on an intergalactic mission and tries to exchange messages with a boy named Noboru, who is still on Earth, through text messages. But eventually, being light years apart, the messages take increasingly longer intervals of time to send, from several months to several years. It poses an interesting question in that, when separated between the farthest reaches of the universe, what significance can there be to a single relationship between a boy and girl? And why would there be any purpose in waiting on, in crying over, and in desiring deeply and achingly for this other person who should be cosmically meaningless? At the very end of Voices of a Distant Star, using a narrative structure very reminiscent of Kimi no wa, the two main characters end the film with a monologue, and they ask each other the most important question of the film. We are far, far, very, very far apart, but it might be that thoughts can overcome time and distance. If for even one instant something like that could happen, what would I think? And they both answer the question with Koko ni iru yo, or I am here. Identity. In my opinion, I think what sets humanity apart from the rest of the cosmos is our ability to give ourselves and the things we observe an identity, and consequently give a meaning to the place and time we are in right here, right now. When Mika and Noboru, the characters of Voices of a Distant Star, wish to say, I am here, they want to assert that they, Mika and Noboru, are at a certain point in time and space. Not anyone else, not the planets or stars that surround them. They alone are at that point, and they can be seen, they can be found, they can be loved, and it is important that only they are there and nobody else, because only Mika is Mika, and only Noboru is Noboru. And even when existing on different timelines, only Mitsuha is Mitsuha, and only Taki is Taki. Even though Mitsuha and Taki should be cosmically insignificant when compared to the rest of the universe, there is only one Mitsuha and one Taki like them in the entire universe. And so there's nothing wrong with wanting only that one person. Identity is not reserved strictly to personhood though. Every day, everywhere, we unconsciously imprint an identity onto everything we observe. The phones in our hands, the cities we live in, the words we speak. These all have an identity that is irreplaceable once fixated to a certain place and time. Like, take even something as inconsequential as this moment of you watching this YouTube video at whatever time and whichever place you're watching it. Nothing can change that you watch this video at this time and this place in the omnipresent plane of cosmic events. The casual and causal act of observation converts unknown entities into familiar identities. And on the dimensional planes of time and space, generating identity allows us to create distinguishable points from which we can meaningfully reference other points within the planes, and then form relationships between said points. Without identity, we would be unable to label any points on our graph, and then the universe would really be empty, void, and meaningless. And identity is a uniquely human concept, or more generally, a concept associated with all sentient thought. Planets and stars, to our knowledge, do not have any awareness of space or time or identity because they do not have thought. They simply exist. They don't know where they are in space or when they are in time because they don't have a concept of they to begin with. The stars of the universe twinkle thoughtlessly, fast asleep. But humanity, life, is the first instance that we know of something awakening in our perpetually dreaming universe, possessing the cognizance to identify things we observe, and then use that ability to situate ourselves within the universe, and just also make use of a revolutionary concept, which is a sense of self to place in the universe to begin with. Whether or not this act of being able to meaningfully identify and define things in the universe is actually meaningful in an even broader sense is beyond my capacity to explain, but it is undeniable that this concept of identity is one of humanity's most basic, distinctive, and enduring contributions to the universe, which is why your name is so important. Your name is the most succinct representation of your identity, which I've taken fastidious care to methodically over-explain over the past 5 minutes about why I think identity can be a fundamental human fixture of reality alongside space and time. When sharing bodies or possessing a physical form that is not originally their own, the only thing that gives Taki and Mitsuha distinguishable identities in this shared body is their names. And so, holding on to your own name should be a precious experience to maintain your identity in space and time. But learning someone else's name should also be a precious experience because it can be the first step to tying yourself to someone at a point in space and time. As the dual nature of Tasokare implies, who are you is a delicately intricate question, and it also carries a deeply mystifying philosophical weight when trying to consider identity and what it means with respect to the rest of the universe. It almost hurts our heads to try and think about who are we while looking up at the stars so far beyond our reach. Earlier in this essay, I talked about how without identity, all of space-time would be empty and meaningless. But suppose there existed only one single point of identity in all of space-time, and that no other points of identity existed. From the perspective of that one point, with no other points to reference or observe, the rest of the universe would still be completely indistinguishable and just as empty and meaningless as before. This is where I want to point out that the title of the movie isn't just name, it's your name. In fact, if we wanted to look at the original Japanese title of Kimi no Na wa, a more accurate English translation of the title should not be your name, but instead, your name? Because the original phrasing of Kimi no Na wa is actually shorthand for Kimi no Namae wa, which will more directly translate to what is your name? But Kimi no Na wa is just shorter and catchier. And similarly, what is your name or your name wouldn't sound as good as an English title either. But na and namae can actually be used interchangeably for the English word name. And also the presence of the wa character at the end is a grammatical particle that could roughly be translated as is, or expecting to relate something pertaining to the subject of the phrase, which is kimi no na, or your name. If the Kimi no Na wa really wanted to be directly translated as just your name, it might have been better to name the film as just Kimi no Na, or Kimi no Namae, but that just sounds funny, and so I think it was actually important that the title of the film was supposed to be read as a question. Tasokare, who are you? What is your name? What isn't so important is our own names, but the names of the other people we meet, and to whom we can give meaning and receive meaning from in this absurd, bewildering, and mystifying universe. And so asking for someone's name is the crucial first step towards demystifying our universe. Your name is the pivotal element that intersects the dimensions which Makoto Shinkai loves to write so much about. But your name is also the pivotal element intersecting yourself and all the people you will ever meet and know in your life. Your name is incredibly important. Like Taki closing his eyes and uttering Mitsuha's name to himself over and over again under the escaping twilight, your name can bring solace and clarity during times of duress. And so, your name should be cherished and protected. Because the most beautiful, most wonderful, and powerful memories you will ever make will be intertwined into this name. And these memories and emotions must also be protected because they can be easily lost. Because your name can be easily forgotten. Names and identities are simultaneously important, profound, and fragile things all at the same time. It's a rather tenuous concept, if you ask me.